Welcome. I'm Rogers Anderson, Williamson County's mayor, and if we travel around our county and find out what is going on today, we kind of have a unique perspective in talking with Kevin Benson, our property manager, oversees all the property that we have in the network of Williamson County government. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, sir. It's been a heck of a ride the past 5 years that I've been here. It'll be 5 years in March, and it's just an outstanding community to be a part of and to support, and the many challenges that we're facing, as you know, with the growth, but challenges are fun, and it's an exciting time for all of us.
Well, growth is not really new to you. When I think about your career, let's kind of back up a little before we talk about Williamson County and all the, I'll use your word, challenges. I mean, in your career, you've had a lot of challenges.
Yeah, you know, this second career of mine with the Williamson County really fits because of my military experience. I served for 28 years as a senior enlisted non-commissioned officer in the United States Army. And the growth there and the challenges there throughout the military really prepared me for this job. Getting the team together, working with other entities, other directors and departments within the county, and the team that we put together and that you put together here is very critical. We've had about 15 new facilities and land that we're in the process now of developing. So that's a challenge in itself, is the amount of growth we're doing so quickly. But as you know, we're looking 30 years out. And with anything,
which is hard.
Yeah, it's very hard to do. But you know, we've got to be prepared for, you know, building a facility one time for that 30 years out instead of, you know, multiple renovations, which really adds the cost above and beyond what we need to be doing. So very interesting times, very challenging. We always are in competition with, you know, funding, the weather, as we try to get some projects done. But one of the biggest challenges that we have in Williamson County right now, as far as growth in my job, is making sure that the facilities are 100% top-notch for the community out there, so that they can come in and enjoy our facilities, and that they're safe as well, which is paramount.
Kevin, when you talk, the people watching this may not realize just how many facilities that we actually have. In the Tennessee Code Annotated, when you look at my job and my responsibilities as the chief financial officer and the keeper of the property, I'm not sure that's not a little old English that needs to be updated. But so in the role that I have, I mean, it's certainly, I mean, you pay you have 50% of the things that weigh on the job that I'm personally responsible for, if that makes sense. And I will say, without a shadow of a doubt, that you've done an exemplary of just an outstanding job of managing people. But the surface is just being scratched. Here we are in 2020, just a few days past 2019, 20 years deep into this century, and Williamson County has got some real challenges in how they do things. I mean, our little location at 1320, you're putting a lot of lipstick on a hog, making it look good, as the old country guy used to say. But it's very important that the employees, not only just the taxpayers that come in on a daily basis, feel good about the property that we own. The hospital is built in the mid-50s. It's a 60-year-old facility. It's got some real challenges. You've had to work with a group called Snyder, who's located in our community, trying to get this building to perform for many years out. I don't have a clue what it would cost to build this building, duplicate this building someplace out. Well, one would just have to be with the land he started, and two, the structure itself is several $1 million just to reconstruct again. So it's imperative, it's critical that we put the maintenance in this building, air conditioning, heating, et cetera, to make this thing last. And you have one building that I'm talking about, and we have how many more other buildings?
We've got 107 facilities that
Yeah.
basically I manage. And when I say facility, it's got heat and air and it's got water in it. So it's got all the things that my tradesmen take care of. This facility here, and you mentioned the Schneider project, is one of 11 that we're upgrading. As you know, our facilities, they range from 1858, the historic courthouse when it was built, till just 2 years ago when the Public Safety Center, which is an outstanding facility, was completed. So we've got a gambit of different systems throughout all of our facilities. And that's where I have to kind of go back to and give a hats off to my tradesmen and what they do to take care of just the many generations of different equipment and the knowledge base they have to maintain that. It's incredible what they do and how they take care of facilities. Getting back to the Schneider project that you mentioned, which is basically an ESCO project. It's an energy saving project. Part of that is that you can assist in what things look like as well as perform. And that's what you mentioned as far as the lipstick on this building. You mentioned this building built in the 1950s, and it's had some renovations to it. It's got some old systems to it, and it's time to update those systems. The way the ESCO program works with Schneider is basically it will pay for itself over a period of time. And we project over 18 years that everything that we invest in this energy project we'll get back just off of savings. And we're already seeing those savings, just incredible. From LED lighting to low water flow, water systems throughout the facilities. Then we have the outside that you mentioned, some efficient windows, some roof work that needed to be done, and then just some sealant of the building. Luckily, we can put some tint to that and make it look a little bit less like a hospital and more like an office complex, which in fact is what it is. And then the biggest thing is the mechanics inside and the air conditioned system, getting rid of the old boiler systems, which are antiquated at best, and putting in new variable systems that give individual comfort level at individual locations a lot better in the workspaces.
And I think it's important when it's taxpayers, that they know they're getting the best for the dollars that they pay. None of us like to pay taxes, me included. But if you have invested in, particularly this building was given to us by Williamson Medical Center some 30 years ago when they built their new facility out across I-65 in '96. And so they gave it to the county. The county invested some money in it, did some renovations to it, basically to be able to allow people to move in. And at that time, in the period of time that we're talking about in the 80s and 90s, they thought this facility would be enough to serve the needs for 30 and 40 years. Well, schools are located here, car tags are located here, register of deeds are located here, property assessor, on and on and on, plus all of the functions that are behind the scenes, such as yourself, or our benefits section, or our insurance section that makes sure things run properly.
Yeah, it's a large puzzle that you run, Rogers, and like I said, you put together one heck of a team. We all get together very well at the higher levels, directors and elected officials. But it is a challenge getting all those different entities working together. And you did mention the taxpayers, and they're paying good money. There's some expectations they have.
Sure they do.
And I want to meet those expectations. And we work together with your guidance to make sure our facilities, again, they look good. There's something that does mean something when it looks good. When it looks good, that means it's being taken care of, and people have some confidence in what's inside of that building, the things they can't see.
You think about your military career, your nearly 30 years worth of military, and the many places that you were at, from Afghanistan to the United States and all points in between. To have a good military team requires good leadership, number one, whether it's a general or a colonel, or in your case, being sure that everything was carried out in the way that it needed to be carried out as an enlisted officer, as I was. But then you had to have the equipment to perform. Now, it takes dollars to purchase stuff, but it also takes dollars to keep the maintenance up on the equipment, whether you're talking about rolling stock or stationary stock. And course, in the military, a lot of it is put it up quickly, efficiently, and oh, by the way, we'll take it down in 8 or 10 years and move it someplace else if we last that long.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, we do in my department have a lot of rolling stock and a lot of different pieces. Just to give you a quick overview of what we've got going in the department, I've got my 3 trades, basically my maintenance technicians, which is HVAC, air conditioning and heating, and then I've got electrical team, and then I've got a plumbing team and general maintenance team. On top of that, we take care of fire panels, doors and locks, numerous doors and locks throughout the county, as you can only imagine. And then I also have a custodial team that has a couple different shifts of full-time janitors, and then my part-time janitors that come in the evenings and really clean up, and the people behind the scenes that you don't see, but in the morning you knew they were there. And then I've got the security element as well that secures this building and this facility off hours. So I've got a couple of different entities myself that I control. And then I've got a supervisor for Mr. Vince Gibson. He supervises all my construction projects and renovations. And he's my right-hand man, and one heck of a guy, does an outstanding job. And then David Gurley, he is my maintenance supervisor. Was HVAC technician for many, many years, has been with the county for many years, but the right guy at the right time to pull up so that I can look at big picture things, as you mentioned before, the growth and the other projects that we've got. I can let those 2 individuals loose, taking care of the day-to-day business, and then work things out in the future. And when you talk about leadership, that's what a leader needs. He needs that time to look what's next, not what's going on right now. That he's got other people doing that kind of
Well,
stuff.
you just think about, I remember a guy telling me that was not in the government, how many times the front door opens at this complex, and then you multiply it times the number of days, times the number of years that have been here. Now, we have, according to Mrs. Anderson's department, where you get your car tags, about 300,000 car tags we're issuing a year. Now, there are a few that come through that door. They might have 1 or 2, or they bring a fleet of trucks, or you could have a local business like Walker Chevrolet or Enterprise that comes over with a bundle of, let's get some car tags they've sold or rented or whatever they've done. But the majority of people coming through that front door, they're one-on-one buying. And if you just look how many times that door is open, minus forgetting or not even adding into the question how many employees go in and out of that front door. So that door is opening hundreds of thousands of times a year, and it needs to open every single time. Now, there's a couple entrances on the side you can access, but it's just that basic concept of how things are used, and they wear out, and they have to be addressed. And you mentioned your team. I mean, you've got a great team of young men and women put together. Our afternoon shift that comes in, they're not acknowledged, but they do the cleaning, they do the back room material, and it's a perfect time for me to ask if you're watching this show and if you're interested in either part-time work or full-time work, we can always use a good qualified men and women to come in through this door and go to work over here. And if it's not here, it's at another location.
Sure is. And I'll tell you, with the growth that we've got coming and the facilities that will be on board within the next 5 to 7 years, I'll have some growth needs in my department and have some more personnel needs as well, just to maintain those facilities properly. You want to build a facility top notch, and you want to keep it that way.
Well, and I encourage people, if you're interested, needing a little extra money on a part-time basis, reach out to us through our HR department. You can do it online, or you could just come over here. Let's talk about this growth. Let's enter into that next phase. So we're at about 235,000 people. We'll know more after 2020 kind of gets rolling around, because the census has to be done. Right. Joe Horn's working that part of the equation over the next few months to see those numbers pull together. But as we look down the road at the different items that we've got to address, some of the schools are addressed in a whole different capacity. You to work with Mark, and not have to. I'm talking about it. You do work with school personnel, but we don't deal with the school buildings, and Kevin takes care of that, and that team over there. Yours is non-school, I'll say, for the most part. So you look at the services that we've got to provide. One that we know that's on the horizon is in the area of the juvenile court, juvenile facility, juvenile detention. Right on the heels of that, over the next few months, we're talking months, to start planning for 3 to 5 years out, we've got to have a new jail. Those two elements, and the court system people kind of get. But taxpayers, as a general rule, do not like to spend tax dollars on facilities for something they can't see or feel, or they don't feel good about. And jails are a component of society that you have to have, and they're not cheap. And nobody wants one in their community.
No.
So we have our facility, and where people realize it or not, that your 6 cities do not have jails. They do not run those facilities. So when they arrest someone in a city, after they're charged, they're brought out to the Williamson County Jail under Dusty Rhodes' jurisdiction through the Sheriff's Department. But the facilities themselves, they have a little maintenance crew that helps. But you know, as we look into the future, we can't locate a jail in any of the other cities. It's kind of a rough area of the community. I mean, there's a rock quarry out there, and it's, you know, there's not a lot of traffic, I'll put it that way, or there's no shopping that goes on there. And so it's a challenge for us, Kevin, to find a facility, build it, and do it in a way that meets standards that you and I both are just amazed by.
Well, the standards have changed too. From what most people think about detention facilities, be it a juvenile or an adult facility, it's you put them in a cell and you lock them. Well, that's changed dramatically over the past years, where it's more of group settings. You've got more one-on-one, more interaction with those that are securing the individuals. For the juvenile, it's all about education. They have an education program within the facility itself planned. So you got to keep them out of the adult facility. So that juvenile, that's the goal, that in building that structure and manning that structure is, you know, I think you heard it in the Green Mile, catch them early, and then keep them out of the adult facility. And then the adult facilities have changed quite a bit. There's a lot more mental assistance that people need. They're having some issues internally that not necessarily, they're not criminals. They're just having issues mentally, and they need some assistance. And we're throwing them in jail, and then we kind of turn them into criminals possibly in the long run. So there's a lot of programs and how the facilities are going to be set up to kind of facilitate minimizing how many people go into a jail. Just like an animal center, how well you educate the community on taking care of their pets, really it has a lot to do with how many intakes that you get for a facility as well.
Well, everything we're doing for the next few years is based upon the growth coming into the community, and people will say, well, why don't you just figure out a way to keep people from coming into the facility? Well, that's not, everybody wants to be here from an educational standpoint, plus there are really good jobs in our county that many other people are looking at to go to work here to raise their family. Now, it's getting increasingly difficult to find a home here for a lot of your skilled tradespeople. And so they're coming in from the Murray counties. They're coming in from Marshall County, Davidson County, because they can't really afford to live here. But that still doesn't mean we don't have the responsibility of the operations of the jail or the operation of these facilities. So it's a real challenge. It's a balancing act, not unlike anything else that you've done. Maybe the military did prepare you for a lot of this, but it was name, rank, and serial number in the service. If you got captured here, it means they've gone to work for someplace else.
Right. Yeah, that is one of the challenges here is bringing in those quality individuals because the cost of living here versus the surrounding counties that are a little bit less. But we are in a centralized hub pretty much for a lot of support from those counties. And we get the quality people, and it's not that far away. I live just outside the county myself. It takes me 20 minutes to get to work. I live out in the country, and that's part of what brings people here too. We still have that rural communities that people enjoy when they leave work for the day. They can get away from the cities or the towns, and it's very easy here in this area in Williamson County to do that. And that's one of the greatest things about Williamson County is just the variance of residents throughout. I mean, we've got high-rise, somewhat high-rise apartment buildings and condos and townhomes, and then you can just go out a few miles outside the city limits of Franklin, and you're out in the country. It's beautiful.
Let's talk a little bit about technology and what it means to your industry. The days of picking up your tool bag and just going to work and how you go to work and and the assignment of the job, that's all changed.
It really has. And part of this this ESCO program that we mentioned earlier with Schneider is bringing technology on board. A lot of these facilities, in the 80s, we didn't have the computers. We didn't have the ability to see ourselves. Well, with the ESCO program, we do have that ability to see ourselves. What we've got is monitoring systems that are attached to all of our HVAC equipment so that we can monitor when something isn't running right, so that we can get ahead of that situation, know what equipment we need to bring there on our trucks, get there and get it fixed, get the turnaround time minimized so that we can make the area comfortable again for those involved. What we've done is, with my technicians, I've assigned them iPads, and each of the iPads are used on a software program called Facility Dude that inputs all of our work orders. So anyone out there that is a facility manager or an assistant facility manager or an area responsibility, they have the ability on a software program 24 hours a day to input a work order system. And then it goes to my administrative office, and from there it's assigned to the trade that it needs to be assigned to. So it's very quickly assigned, very quickly seen. Those that put in the work order request can see the progress of that work order. If the status changes, it's on hold, awaiting parts or whatever it may be. And again, that increases the communication. And when you have good communication, when something's broken, it really is important, because the other end, if they don't know what's going on and they're left in the black, they think nothing is going on. And when in fact, sometimes it just takes time to get things set up and fixed properly. So all those pieces of technology are being used right now. Even our roofs, when we get our roofs evaluated, they shoot those roofs with radar, and they can see exactly where we have wet spots and penetration of water in our roofs, and then we can focus our funds on those particular areas where I think maybe by warranty, 15-year lifespan, that roof is ready to go back in the old days just by the lifespan, when in fact that roof may be in still good shape and I've got to focus somewhere else. So again, technology helps me focus where to put my funds and the funding stream.
Well, and I think it's important too that we're in the 20th century. We're not fully into the 21st yet. There's still plenty of room for us to grow. And that's another reason that young people that are going to school to understand that we are going to use some of those skill sets that you've learned in school. And the men and women that are my age, it may be a little bit more difficult, but some of them are already. I think of a couple of them that are doing their heating and air, and the equipment they're using and the gauges they're using. It's just saving them many hours of bending over and taking it out and testing it. It's a different world that you're in, but so is driving a car. You and I both know 15 years ago there was very little technology on the car. I hardly know how to get the hood of the truck open anymore because of all the safety features and things, because of all the gauges. I don't know that it's always good. I'm experiencing a little problem right now, but somebody has figured out how to run these, and you've figured out that we've got to be in that 21st century for all of these 100+ buildings that we've got. We've only got 4 or 5 minutes left. Sometimes it's hard to believe you can talk about maintenance items as important to the taxpayers, but I really think it's important as we go down the road that we always have you sitting at the table, whether we're talking about a new jail or a new facility, so that you're laced into that planning stages that we use with our owners, architects and owners rep and the construction people. I think of the public safety building that you mentioned too. That's a feet of concrete. I mean, not a foot or like but just an unbelievable amount of structure and how much IT is built into that place.
Matter of fact, I was just there yesterday looking at some additional things we can do to increase efficiencies at that building. And we did go look at the server rooms that we've got there. And I had some senior individuals from Schneider Electric that were walking with me. And it was incredible the amount of technology that we've got in there. And how much more we can put in there. But it's a balance too, you know, how much technology can we control? And then how much is just, you know, just in there that we can't actually see. But technology is going to be important as we continue to move forward. Access control has changed. It's just not lock and keys anymore. You know, how we move people and how we control where people can go in different facilities is always important, and it's something that we always think about.
So what's your biggest need over the next couple of years? Good people?
Well, the biggest need is just going to be really some patience as we, you know, go through processes of renovations, as we go through new builds. It's always difficult. If you can imagine, you know, we've all done it at home, gone through renovations, very painful. But when you're also going through it at work and workplaces, it's difficult. And then we've got to transition from old facilities to new. That'll be a big challenge as well.
2 minutes left. What if I forgot to mention that you wanted to get out there during the one time I get you to be able to come here and put a tie on, which normally he doesn't wear a tie.
No, I'm normally on roofs or in ditches or something of that sort, checking on progress.
And I dressed thinking you wouldn't come in.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I figured you'd wear overalls or coveralls when you came in. But really, I think that the challenges that we have are to continue to try to get the goals done quickly. The processes that we have to go through sometimes, it takes time. And a lot of that's just legalities and the legal way we have to do things. But just to get people to work together and understand that there will be some difficult times during renovations and new builds, and it will end. It will get over, and then we'll be in better facilities for everyone. So patience is what I would ask that everyone consider as we move forward.
In our last minute, I want to reach out to all those employees that watch this show that there'll be a lot of changes coming about over the next few years, whether it's juvenile or jail or animals or just this complex. And it's we thank you for being patient, as Kevin has indicated, but it's also very difficult to get that heating and air all correct for every room in a multi-building like this. And we're making efforts through the help of some of the contractors and subcontractors to make it a better place to work and perform and do your job. Kevin Benson got a big job, got a big territory to cover. We are very grateful for you. Thank you for what you do, and thanks to your team. And I'm glad to have him part of my team. Kevin Benson, property manager. Have a good day.